Welcome to the back of the Jeep and another Disc Golf Debrief. This time comparing the Opto-X Chameleon mid-ranges that I threw to the Discmania Evolution line Neoplastic mid-ranges. My neutral to understable disc I was comparing today were the Opto-X Chameleon Fuse to the Evolution line Neo Origin Latitude 64 versus Discmania. The Fuse has for a long time been one of my favorite discs. It is extremely workable. In this particular shot, I release it on hyzer, it pops up the flat and just glides for days. It hit the tree, but had it not hit the tree, I'm guessing it would have gone around 250 feet, which would have been bad since the basket's at 216. It's very workable. You can push it into an anhyzer turnover line pretty easily. It'll hold a hyzer okay, but it will want to flip up just a little bit. The Opto-X plastic is actually one of the more stable plastics for the Fuse. The gold line and certainly the base plastics are way flippier. This Evolution line Origin is a little bit flippier, I think, than the Fuse. It has a really interesting hand feel. The profile's boring in a lot of ways, but it feels so good in the hand, super smooth underneath the underside of the rim. And it flies really far. I feel like it's a little bit faster than the Fuse. Again, it'll do that flip to flat and fly straight thing. On hole 9 out here, both discs were able to hold a low line through the trees and what have you, just past the basket to around 240 with my arm speed. They're both great. I don't think the Origin will kick out the Fuse anytime soon, but man, is it fun to throw. I don't know, things to think about. The overstable disc I was throwing today were the Opto-X Chameleon Anchor versus the Evolution line Mutant. The Anchor is a big beaded mid-range, and it's fairly overstable, but this is one of those places where I think we actually have two categories of overstable. I would call this category 1. If you throw it, it is going to hold whatever line you put it on for about 80% of the flight. And then at the end of the flight on a right-hand backhand throw, it's going to start moving left. It's not going to dump into the ground, but it's going to get over. In this particular shot, I put it wide of the telephone pole, and it flew more or less straight past the telephone pole and then got over 30 to 40 feet to end up underneath the basket. The Mutant, on the other hand, is a bizarre disc. I would call it a mid-range tilt. It is crazy overstable. Its profile is all made up of straight edges. Some have called it the Cybertruck of mid-ranges, which I think is totally legit. And it is the other kind of overstable. In order to get it past that telephone pole, I had to start it on some ante, and then as it fights, it is continually changing angles, aiming for the ground. And so there's actually not as much left to right play in the air, because the disc is tilting down. I think that gives you actually a narrower window to work in until you include the ground skip, because I do actually think this will skip a little bit more. The other thing is that this has no glide. It says a 3. I just don't believe that. It's really hard to keep this disc in the air. And in fact, the best comparators I would have in terms of flight style would be things like the Baobab, or the Saki Bomb Slammer, which are both so aggressively overstable that they don't want to stay in the air. They want to turn outside edge down into that hyzer flight and then find the ground. So really fun disc to throw, totally bizarre. If you're new to disc golf, do not get this disc. It is not going to teach you good habits, but with a little bit of arm speed, a little bit of practice, it has a spot. Is it going to bump out any of my other overstable options? Right now, I'm enjoying my overstable or slightly overstable 4 speeds. I don't know that I need a beefy 5 speed in my bag that I can't throw as far. So I don't know that this will make it. Honestly, I used to throw the Anchors a lot until I started throwing the Trust for that overstable or slightly overstable mid-range shot. And I do think they fly very similarly. It comes down to hand feel. The Trust has a very normal beadless profile to it, whereas the Anchor, you probably either love it or hate it with its mega bead on the bottom. Hope you've enjoyed this Disc Golf Debrief. Check out the videos where I discuss Matthew chapter 23, verses 23 to 24 for more of its flights around Johns Island City Park. And until next time, rejoice in Christ, meditate on his word, and enjoy the world he's made as we look forward to that new world which is to come. See you next time.